It was 11:43 p.m. on a Friday when I logged into our bank account. I'd been updating server diagrams for a client rollout scheduled Monday, a late-night habit from years of freelance contracts. The dashboard loaded slowly, then blinked once before the numbers appeared. Checking account, 226.47. Joint savings, 0. I stared at the screen, refreshed it twice. Same result. Then I saw the transaction history. 5 transfers over 3 days. A total of 112, 0 gone. All to an external account I didn't recognize. Sabrina had left that morning for a spa weekend with her college friends. They'd done it once a year since before we got married. Facials, massages, fancy robes, overpriced mineral water, her self-care ritual. She hugged me goodbye, blew a kiss from the driveway, said, "Don't work all weekend. I'll be back Sunday night." I said, "Have fun," then went back to my laptop. Now I was staring at an empty account and feeling none of the panic I probably should have felt. Just confirmation. Because I already knew. She'd been different for a while. Her phone never left her hand. She'd turned off location sharing without mentioning it. Started buying new clothes she never wore around me. Started talking about wanting to reimagine the living room, maybe expand the kitchen. I recognized the pattern, even if I hadn't had the full picture, until now. I sat back in my chair, listening to the soft hum of the server rack in the next room. The quiet calm of the house we bought together 5 years ago. I didn't feel angry. Not exactly. I felt focused. What Sabrina didn't know, what she would never think to suspect, was that she wasn't the only one planning quietly. I had seen this move coming 6 months ago, and I'd already done what needed to be done. I clicked the tab for my private account, the one she didn't know existed. Balance, 164, 228.17. Untouchable, legally separate, established months ago. I closed the laptop, turned off the lights, and walked to the kitchen. The coffee machine blinked ready like it was waiting for the next phase. I poured myself a glass of water, leaned against the counter, and took a long breath. This wasn't the beginning of the end. It was the end of pretending. 6 months earlier, Sabrina started locking her phone. It was a small thing at first, just a pin she hadn't used before. Then came the silence during dinner, the late-night texts, the bathroom breaks with her phone held face down on the sink. "I'm just texting Carrie about the bridal shower," she said once, too quickly, when I asked who she'd been messaging. "Okay," I said, not pushing, just noting. We'd been married 9 years, long enough to recognize patterns, even subtle ones. She was restless, defensive, evasive in small ways. I didn't jump to conclusions, but I started paying attention. Then came the push for renovations. "We should really think about updating the kitchen," she said over wine one night. "It'll raise the value of the house. We could pull from savings, maybe take a little from your Roth to cover the rest." Something about the way she said "your Roth" stuck with me, like it was already hers. She became insistent about moving money into our joint account. "For transparency," she said. "For flexibility," she added later. "For something," I thought, but not for us. That weekend, while she was out shopping with friends, I created a new checking account in my name only, at a different bank. Quiet. Clean. I didn't move everything. Just enough. Then I opened a business trust. Transferred my half of the house title to it through a friend's firm. All above board. All legal. All untraceable from a casual look. I stopped syncing my accounts with our budgeting app. Reverted ownership of my car title. Made copies of critical documents, marriage license, insurance policies, prenup she never bothered reading. Stored them in a fireproof box at the office. The day she changed her iCloud password and deleted our shared calendar, I didn't ask why. I just checked the last sync backup and downloaded everything. Every safeguard, every backup, every paper trail she thought had been erased, I had already preserved it. It wasn't paranoia. It was preparation. By the time she pulled the trigger, I'd already moved the target. What she didn't know, I write code for a living. And in my world, every breach leaves a log. She just never bothered to look at the logs. The first thing I did was open a new checking account under a different name. Not fake, just Alexander R. Bennett instead of Alex Bennett. A technicality most banks don't flag, especially if the social and ID check out. I funded it with a small initial deposit, $500 from a freelance payout I hadn't mentioned to Sabrina. Then, over the next few weeks, I funneled in more. Reimbursement checks. Bonus payouts. A cashed-out brokerage account I hadn't touched since 2012. Just enough that she wouldn't notice a change in our joint account balance, but enough that if everything went sideways, I wouldn't be starting from zero. Then came the business trust. I named it A.R. Bennett Holdings, an umbrella that sounded corporate enough to avoid questions. Through it, I began transferring ownership of key assets. The condo I bought before we met, offloaded to the trust with the help of a friend who owed me a favor and knew the paperwork. My stock options from the last 3 years, moved under the trust as deferred compensation. My inheritance, the one thing my mother left me in her will, was pulled out of our investment account and split into a separate CD under my name only. Sabrina never asked why. She never noticed. She'd stopped paying attention long ago, distracted by whatever version of herself she was trying to become: Reiki, plant-based diets, yoga retreats that felt more like audition tapes for a new life. She never asked why I stopped using the budgeting app, never noticed when I unlinked her email from our mortgage notifications, never mentioned that our auto payments were now coming from an account in just my name. People say betrayal is loud doors slamming, voices raised. But most of the time, it's quiet. It's apathy, inattention, a subtle shift in what someone doesn't say. I didn't hate her for it, but I no longer trusted her with the version of me I'd spent 2 decades building. So I compartmentalized. I mirrored the systems I'd built: professionally redundant, segmented, secure. By the time she touched the joint account, most of what she could hurt was already quarantined. She thought she had pulled the rug. She didn't realize I'd replaced the floor. Friday afternoon, 2:32 p.m., Sabrina texted a photo of a mimosa and a bathrobe. Self-care mode activated, the caption read, followed by 3 sparkle emojis. The picture looked staged, lighting too perfect, background blurred just enough to hide the setting. I'd seen that photo before weeks ago on her phone, saved in an album named Wellness Aesthetic. By 6 p.m., I was home, logged into the admin panel for our home security system. I clicked into the office feed camera 3, facing the driveway behind her building. There it was, her car, parked in its usual spot. Lights off. Empty. But there. I checked the timestamp. 5:47 p.m. I clicked to the next camera, our front door. She hadn't come back to grab something. Her suitcase was already gone that morning. Then I opened Tracker, a custom app I'd sideloaded onto her car's GPS system when I replaced the alternator last spring. She thought I was just being helpful. The ping landed 48 miles east in a suburb called Valemont, a high-end Airbnb rental. 5 stars, entire home, $800 a night. I pulled up the listing. Photos showed vaulted ceilings, a hot tub, and champagne flutes arranged by the window. The host's bio read, "Perfect for couples getaways." I sat still for a minute, let the information settle. Not rage, not even sadness, just confirmation of what I already knew. This wasn't about facials and sound baths. This was about escape from me, from her life, from the marriage she'd already vacated emotionally. I opened my secure cloud account and started cataloging everything: timestamps, screenshots, camera feeds, GPS data, all of it. I wasn't going to confront her. I wasn't going to show my hand. Because this wasn't poker, this was chess. And Sabrina had just moved a pawn 2 spaces forward. She had no idea the queen was already behind her. I met Jordan at a Thai place near Capitol Hill. We hadn't seen each other in 3 years. She'd moved out of firm work and into private practice, mostly handling high-asset divorce cases for Seattle tech execs and startup casualties. Smart, discreet, expensive. "Long time," he said, sliding into the booth. "You want to talk about Sabrina, don't you?" I nodded. "You already have a file, don't you?" he asked. I pulled out a slim envelope. Tracker data, GPS pings, camera screenshots, timeline summaries. I didn't need to convince him, I just needed intel. "Can you run her?" I asked quietly. He didn't even flinch. "Phone records, real estate activity, transfers. Give me 72 hours. You want this off the radar?" "As far off as you can get." He gave a short nod. "Send me her phone number and email. I'll do the rest." I paid the bill in cash. No paper trail. 3 days later, Jordan texted, "We need to talk. In person." His office was modern chrome lines, matte walls, no clutter. He handed me a folder thick with printouts. "She's been withdrawing cash same ATM, same time every Friday for the last 4 months. About 1-200 each time. Structured just under reporting thresholds. Classic layering." I flipped pages. Venmo payments to usernames I didn't recognize. One of them, at MarkFit28, came up repeatedly. Descriptions were blank. One said, "Consulting." Another just had a red heart emoji. "There's more," he said, pointing to the last page. A rental application for a luxury unit in South Aurora. Sabrina's name only. No cosigner listed, but she put down her income and Minia's combined household assets. She listed me? She's bold. Or sloppy. Possibly both. He slid over a final document. Here's the kicker. The landlord flagged the application because someone else had submitted a similar one for the same unit a few days earlier. Different name, same phone number. Listed Sabrina as an emergency contact. I stared at it. Marcus James Monroe. I'd never heard the name, but I would. She's setting up an exit plan, Jordan said, with someone else. I nodded once, closed the folder, and stood. Where are you going? He asked. To find out who Marcus is, I said, and what he's really after. The first thing I did was create a fake profile. Ethan Parker, 34, software engineer, recently moved to Denver from Portland. Interests: fitness, personal development, high-end gear. I seeded the account with generic photos and followed the kind of profiles Marcus would: trust gyms, sneaker drops, crypto threads. Within 48 hours, @MarkFit128 accepted the follow request. I scrolled his feed. Marcus Monroe, 28, personal trainer, entrepreneur. His bio read, helping people become the strongest version of themselves. The grid told a different story: protein, shake selfies, shirtless mirror shots, and hashtags like grind set and build your empire. A guy selling hustle because he had no product. The captions were full of motivational noise. The comments were where I found Sabrina. Different account, not her main one, but the username was a variation of her maiden name, heart emojis. Proud of you. Fire emojis. One post. Him lifting weights, her comment. Can't wait to build something amazing with you. I found 6 posts like that. Then I checked the tagged locations, cross-referenced with the GPS data from my tracker app. The Airbnb from her spa weekend. He'd posted a boomerang of champagne glasses, same table, same view. Dated the same night she was at the resort. I kept digging. Found them in front of a lease sign in Aurora, her in sunglasses. Him grinning. Caption, new beginnings. She was financing it. With my income, not just the apartment. His GoFundMe page listed a target of 20,000 for his independent gym startup. 5 anonymous donations of 20 each. I checked the transaction IDs against her bank export Jordan had pulled. They matched. Sabrina wasn't just cheating. She was investing. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. This wasn't impulse. This wasn't some tragic emotional drift. It was coordinated, measured. She was underwriting a second life, while still spending mine. I took a screenshot, saved everything to my secure drive. Then I opened a blank document and started writing. Not an email, not a confrontation. A strategy. She wasn't building a future. She was drafting a heist. She just didn't realize the vault had already been emptied. I didn't confront her. No yelling, no dramatic showdown, no accusations flung across the kitchen table. That's not how I work. That's not how this ends. Instead, I started a digital sweep. Phone backups came first. Sabrina never changed her iCloud credentials, probably forgot I set them up. I logged in remotely and downloaded everything. Texts, notes, calendar entries, deleted messages. Her last 10 search terms included, can you buy a house before a divorce is final, and moving out before separation laws, Colorado. She wasn't hiding a trail, she was laying one. Next, I copied our full joint account history into encrypted PDFs, sorted by transaction type, vendor, date, and flagged entries. The Venmo payments to Marcus. The duplicate Airbnb stays. The late-night Lyft rides that never ended at her office. I screen-captured every questionable deposit, every midnight transfer, every cash withdrawal labeled as self-care. Her laptop? Backed up and cloned while she was out buying throw pillows on a Sunday afternoon. I found budget spreadsheets for her new apartment and a Google Doc titled Exit Plan Summer. It read more like a business proposal than a breakup letter. Bullet points, cost breakdowns, legal options. Suggested talking points to minimize friction. One note said, if he pushes back, accuse him of emotional detachment, won't argue. She was counting on me to fold. But I was cataloging. Quietly, methodically, I took photos of documents she'd left other side contracts with Marcus for fitness consulting, a PayPal receipt for a mattress delivered to the new apartment, her printed rental application sitting under a book about manifesting abundance. I stored it all, in 3 encrypted drives sewn local, one on a secure cloud, one hidden inside a folder labeled Work Conference Slides 2021 on an external backup she never touched. By the end of the week, I had 137 files, cross-indexed, dated, and searchable. This wasn't revenge, it was preservation. She thought she was orchestrating a quiet departure. But she never checked the logs. She never looked for the admin. And I've never lost control of a system I built. Timing is everything, Jordan said, sliding a folder across his desk. I flipped it open. Case law, precedents, financial analysis. Colorado was an equitable distribution state, not equal equitable, which meant fairness based on contribution, need, and behavior. A system built for nuance, but easily gamed by whoever acted first. If you file now, he said, we can file motions to freeze joint assets. We have a documented pattern of financial misconduct, which can sway the judge when it comes to dividing property. And if I wait, she could shift more assets, sell what she's acquired with your income, file her own paperwork, spin her own version of the story. Once she initiates, you're reacting. Right now, you're controlling the frame. I closed the folder. Once we file, I said, she'll know. Jordan nodded. Yes, but only after the freeze order hits, and by then her hands are already tied. What about the trust? Protected. She can't touch it. The condo, the inheritance, those are out of reach. But she'll come for everything else. Pensions, business assets, the house. She's already trying to buy a new one, I said, using our household income. Then we file before she closes that deal. If it's not finalized, we can contest it as a misappropriation of marital funds. He tapped a page from the file. Once we file, we submit a sworn financial disclosure. You'll attach all this, every screenshot, every bank record. The judge will see the pattern. And Marcus? Not relevant legally unless she tries to claim infidelity to attack your character. But if he's on the lease or the financial trail, it becomes a factor, especially if he's benefiting from marital money. I exhaled slowly. The room felt cold, quiet, not heavy, just exact, like someone had taken emotion out of the air and replaced it with code. What's the risk if I wait a little longer? I asked. You're walking a wire, Jordan said. The longer you wait, the higher the fall. If she moves first, you lose leverage. If she dumps more money into his life before we act, it's harder to claw back. But if you move before she expects it, she won't see it coming. Exactly. I nodded once. Then we file Monday. Saturday morning, I sent the text just after 8 a.m. Hope you're enjoying the spa. No rush. I'm staying at my brother's this weekend to get some work done. There was no brother. Not nearby, anyway. Just a rented office space in Lodo and a short-term motel across from a shuttered diner. Untraceable, cash only, no connection to my name. I wasn't hiding, I was watching. The tracker app showed her location hadn't changed. Still pinging from the luxury Airbnb in Valemont. Multiple occupants now. Marcus's car appeared around 2 p.m. Friday and hadn't moved since. By Sunday, they'd ordered delivery 4 times. Thai, then tacos, then sushi. One of the receipts showed up in our shared card, historized without hesitation. They were treating my income like a lifestyle subscription. At 3:11 p.m., while they were lounging somewhere under skylights and linen sheets, I returned home. I parked on the next street over, entered through the back, and moved quietly. In the bedroom closet, I reached behind the storage bins for the motion-triggered microcam I'd ordered 6 weeks earlier. Tiny, encrypted, disguised as a coat hook. I installed it at eye level, facing the kitchen entry. A second one went in the office bookshelf, angled at her desk. Nothing fancy, just insurance. Everything uploaded remotely. No red lights. No visible indicators. She wouldn't notice unless she was looking for it. And she wasn't looking for anything. Not in this house. I cleaned up, reset the thermostat, vacuumed the hallway she always commented on, and staged the house exactly the way I knew she'd expect to find it. Lived in, but not suspicious. At 6:47 p.m., tracker pinged. Her car was en route. ETA 7:23. I left through the side door at 6:50, walked 2 blocks, and looped around to the motel. I watched her pull in from the live feed. She was smiling, alone, luggage in hand. By the time she stepped through the front door, I was already sitting on the motel bed with a fresh backup of the surveillance feed uploading to cloud storage. She thought the weekend had bought her time. What she didn't know was that she'd just used it to expand my archive. She walked in like a woman reborn messy bun, highlighter on her cheekbones, wearing a cardigan she only broke out when she wanted to look effortlessly serene. I was already in the kitchen, sipping tea like I hadn't spent the weekend digitally tailing her. "Hey," I said, smiling. "How was the spa?" She sighed, dropped her bag by the stairs. "Incredible. I really needed that. Journaling. Yoga. Just space, you know?" I nodded, gesturing to the mug. "Made your favorite peppermint chamomile. Thought you'd want to ease back in." She lit up, took the mug, and leaned against the counter like nothing had changed. Because in her version, nothing had. She'd gone away. Come back. Lived a lie. Told a new one. "It was all women, right?" I asked lightly, just enough to suggest casual interest. She laughed. "Of course. Can you imagine a man surviving a detox scrub and lavender wrap without crying?" I chuckled. She lied with ease. Polished. Practiced. No stutter, no twitch. Just clean fiction wrapped in a soft voice and a practiced smile. We ate dinner together, leftover risotto I reheated like a devoted husband. She asked about my weekend at my brother's, and I told her it was uneventful. Caught up on emails. Watched a documentary about space telescopes. She never asked for details. She never mentioned Marcus, never explained the Airbnb receipt that would hit our bank statement in 48 hours. I didn't bring it up. Because this wasn't the time for confrontation. It was the time to observe the mask. After dinner, she offered to do the dishes. I let her. I watched as she moved through the kitchen like she still owned it. Like this life was still hers. When she said, "Maybe I should go away more often," I smiled and replied, "You definitely came back glowing." She smiled back. Then I added, "Maybe I'll book another weekend for you soon." She laughed, thanked me, called me thoughtful. By the time we went to bed, she was humming to herself in the bathroom, brushing her teeth like we were just two people unwinding from a quiet weekend. I lay in bed, the cameras still uploading, the backup drive syncing. She thought she'd come back to a house still asleep. But I was wide awake. And so was the case file. At 2:17 a.m., she was asleep. The slow, steady rhythm of her breath filled the dark. Her phone was face down on the nightstand, silent. She didn't bother locking it anymore. I guess she thought she didn't need to. I waited 5 more minutes before slipping out of bed, barefoot, silent. I'd already installed Backup Reclaim, a forensic tool used by IT recovery firms. Meant for restoring corrupted drives. I repurposed it for something cleaner, a full clone of her iPhone's data. Messages. Notes, app usage, deleted texts, screen time logs. It took 11 minutes. While the clone processed, I checked the feeds from the hidden cams. Kitchen. Office. Camera 2 had flagged motion at 12:42 a.m. I opened the file. There she was, in the kitchen, wrapped in her spa robe, whispering into her phone. One hand stirring tea. The other holding her phone at a low angle, like instinct told her to hide even if she didn't know why. "He's still clueless," she said. "I'll handle the paperwork this week. Then we're free to move forward. We just need to get everything done before Alex catches on." There was a pause. Then, "No, he won't fight it. He never does. That's the whole point." She laughed, quiet and bitter. It didn't sound like her. Not the version I'd married. It sounded like someone who believed she was in control. She ended the call 10 minutes later, flipped the light, went to bed. Never checked the corner of the bookshelf where a tiny camera had captured the whole thing. I finished the clone and encrypted the files on a backup drive labeled tax returns. I made 2 copies, uploaded a third to an offshore cloud. I archived the video, synced it to the same location, and flagged it for Jordan under the folder name. Client exhibits, intent to defraud. Then I shut everything down, returned to bed, and laid there. She sighed in her sleep and turned toward me. She thought the game was still hers to play. She had no idea I'd already audited the board, rewritten the rules, and was preparing to file the final report. Monday. 6:42 a.m. I was outside the courthouse before the lights were on. The clerk unlocked the door at 7:00. I filed the petition for dissolution of marriage with cause listed as financial misconduct. Jordan had prepped everything: affidavits, exhibits, asset disclosures, a motion to freeze joint accounts, and request an emergency lien against the property. By 7:45, the paperwork was logged and time-stamped. Sabrina was still asleep. I stepped outside and called the bank from the courthouse steps. Provided the case number. They flagged the joint account and savings. All transactions now required dual authorization. Her debit card would stop working within the hour. From there, I walked 2 blocks to my corporate office. Swiped in early. No one questioned it. I called our HR director and scheduled a quick meeting. She'd handled my stock vesting for the last 3 years and knew I'd been planning long-term holdings. I just filed for divorce, I told her plainly. There may be some asset access attempts coming from a third party. I need everything locked until legal reviews clear it. She nodded, no questions asked. She'd seen this before. I handed her a signed statement requesting that no transactions or vesting be approved without my direct signature, even if requested by a named beneficiary or legal spouse. She added the request to my file. Notarized. Last stop, our pension administrator. Same process. I showed proof of legal filing, initiated a beneficiary hold. Everything was locked, everything insulated. At 10:03 a.m., Sabrina texted me. Hey, my card isn't working. Can you check the bank app? I didn't respond. At 10:17, she called. I let it ring. At 10:25. I got an email confirmation that the lien had been recorded. A legal hold on the house title had been filed preventing any sale, refinance, or transfer without my direct consent. I sat at my desk and sipped coffee. She would wake up thinking the world still worked on her terms. She would try to withdraw, transfer, sell, and the system would say, access denied. At 9:12 a.m., my phone buzzed with a notification from FedEx. Package delivered, service of process, signed for by S. Bennett. By 9:15, Sabrina had gone into scramble mode. 3 missed calls, 2 voicemails, 1 frantic email that began with, "What is going on?" and ended with a half-hearted, "We can talk about this." She hadn't even finished her latte before her card declined at the cafe across from her office. The barista offered to rerun it. She tried again, declined. Tried a different card. Same result. By 10:02 a.m., she'd received the motion for divorce, the asset freeze order, and a court summons delivered directly to her front desk. The receptionist had to initial for it. Her next move was obvious. She called me. 4 times. I didn't answer. At 10:37 a.m., I sent a single text. Please forward the following to your attorney. Attached was a PDF. Call logs, financial activity, Venmo transactions, Airbnb receipts, signed rental agreements, and a detailed timeline cross-referencing her withdrawals, messages to Marcus, and her attempt to list our house. No threats, no explanation. Just data. 2 minutes later, she replied, "Why are you doing this?" I didn't respond. She already knew. By noon, Jordan called. Her lawyer reached out. They're asking to delay the hearing. Denied, I said. She's had 6 months to prepare. Jordan chuckled. I figured you'd say that. Let's move forward. I went back to work, quietly, methodically. A systems architect watching an unstable network come undone in real time. She'd bet on chaos, on confusion, on me doing what I always did, shrugging, minimizing, keeping the peace. Instead, I'd gone silent, which was worse. Because silence is what comes right before the system resets. The courtroom was small, no gallery, just a judge, 2 lawyers, and the wreckage of a marriage laid out in folders. Sabrina showed up looking polished, professional, strategic sadness in her posture. Her lawyer opened with the usual playbook emotional labor, shared goals, the ambiguity of modern marriage. He requested an even split of all marital assets, house, pensions, residuals, investments, called it fair and reasonable. Jordan waited, then stood and dismantled the narrative. Exhibit A. Screenshots of Venmo payments to Marcus labeled consulting, deposit, and support. Exhibit B. Call logs showing 37 after-midnight conversations between Sabrina and a contact saved only as M. Exhibit C. Signed lease agreements, real estate listing drafts, a falsified income report for a home Sabrina tried to purchase without disclosing her marital status. Then came the surveillance footage, her voice on tape. We just need to get it all done before Alex catches on. The courtroom fell silent. Her attorney objected. The judge overruled. Then came the forensic audit Jordan submitted. Funds moved without consent. A spreadsheet mapping the timeline of every withdrawal, payment, and transfer since February. The judge leaned back, reviewed the evidence again, and spoke calmly. Based on this documentation, the court finds substantial evidence of intentional financial misconduct. He turned to Sabrina's attorney. Your client attempted to liquidate assets under false pretenses. The court is granting full ownership of the marital home to the petitioner, primary control of all jointly held assets, and an injunction preventing the respondent from accessing or withdrawing from any shared accounts until further order. He paused. Furthermore, due to the concealment and misuse of funds, the court will consider sanctions if future violations occur. Jordan nodded. Thank you, Your Honor. Sabrina said nothing. Not in the courtroom, not on the way out. She'd walked in expecting negotiation, leverage, some version of control. What she found was that every transaction leaves a trace. And I'd already collected every single one. 1 year later, the house is quiet. Not empty, just calm. The kind of stillness that doesn't feel like absence, it feels like control. Like the space knows who it belongs to now. It's mine. Officially, legally, completely. The title transfer cleared 7 months ago. The last lien lifted. The deed delivered to my inbox with a digital seal and a closing statement stamped with my name alone. Alex Bennett, sole owner. I kept the kitchen, gutted the upstairs bathroom, rewired the home office with fiber and 2 failover backups. Not for work, for security. Systems, once broken, don't just need fixing, they need redesigning. My days are quieter, early mornings, coffee at the edge of the patio. I still architect cloud platforms for enterprise clients, still automate other people's networks while tightening my own. Only now, no one else holds the admin password. Sabrina? I haven't spoken to her since the final court hearing. Rumor has it Marcus vanished about 6 weeks after the judgment, gone as fast as the money dried up. Someone saw her working retail up in Boulder, quieter now, older somehow. The kind of older that has nothing to do with age. I don't hate her, not anymore. She made her moves, I made mine. The difference is I didn't need to lie to win. I started dating again. Slowly, cautiously. No stories about what happened. No bitterness. Just clarity. I know who I am. I know what I won't give away. Last week, I updated my LinkedIn for the first time in 2 years. Added a new project, a new client. Refreshed the certifications section. Under About Me, I added 1 line. Plan quietly. Move precisely. Finish completely. That was all. This wasn't revenge, it was restoration. I didn't burn anything down. I just took back what was mine and made it better. People think endings come with explosions, with shouting, lawyers, betrayal. Sometimes they do. But sometimes the most powerful move is the quiet one. The one made in the background. The one that doesn't raise its voice because it doesn't need to. I don't have to prove anything anymore. I'm already living the result. This story was brutal, but this story on the right-hand side is even more insane.